Hey all, here are OS Reviews. So here we're taking a quick look at the LIGHTSALT JSD ecosystem. This consists of a mechanical keyboard which has a Qi wireless charging pad that you can pop it onto a mat and charge it without plugging any cables in. Of course, it still has a USB Type-C port if you want to charge it in a more traditional way or use it as a wired keyboard. There's also a Bluetooth wireless mode, includes a wireless mouse as well. So the area on the left region is a more traditional place where you can pop down your smartphone or wireless buds. If they support Qi wireless charging, you can top them up at the same time. Essentially, there are 2 or 3 different coils inside of this mat. But what's interesting is they also seem to be selling this as individual accessories if you don't get the entire kit. So in our case, we have just the keyboard at the moment I'll be taking a quick look at, and the other parts, including the charging mat as well as the mouse, can be picked up separately. They are currently a project on Kickstarter, although they have also been around and manufactured other mechanical keyboards in the past. Aside from the wireless charging capabilities, the design of the keyboard is also kind of strange. They have almost a hexagon-shaped keycaps, and they're using a rather unusual frozen silence switches. And they're advertising this as a transparent switch that feels linear yet clear in terms of feedback, 17% quieter than normal red switches. So it should be something that doesn't produce too much noise if you're typing, but still give you a little bit more tactility compared to, say, a membrane keyboard. And there's also a removable wrist pad that you can use for extra ergonomics or detach it if you want a slightly more smaller overall presentation. They claim that the keycaps have been pre-lubricated, including the springs, so it should be a pretty nice overall sensation that doesn't require too much tinkering around, and also claims that dust won't get in too easily either. And some of the default shades, including forest green, retro 64-bit, I have to admit already looks quite interesting. It just says Jian LIGHTSALT, and then we have the keyboard underneath, including the magnetic wrist pad that we'll take a closer look at in a moment. Has kind of a soft finish to the plastic and then has some rubber on the other side that prevents it from sliding around. Down below here we do have a Type-C cable. If you don't have the charging mat, you can still, again, charge up this keyboard or use it in the wired mode. And then we also have a keycap remover for pulling that out, either replacing, washing, or customizing. And then underneath the actual keyboard itself, we have just a quick user guide. Okay, so from a design perspective, I have to say that LIGHTSALT do make some very strange looking keyboards. This entire thing with this honeycomb pattern is unlike anything I have seen, and it has surprising heft to it, weighing almost 3.5 pounds. So that's kind of crazy for a model like this, but at least it does mean they have used, I think, fairly quality components in terms of making sure everything doesn't move around or wobble and just has a bit more traction as you're typing on it. Everything is indeed super quiet and satisfying as you're pressing on it. All the buttons do feel consistent in terms of their actuation point as well as the sound that it makes, including the space bar. So I have to say that the kind of calibration of these keycaps at least do seem to be a step up compared to some of the really generic super budget mechanical keyboards that we see floating around. So a little bit more enthusiast grade in terms of some of those small details at least. Some of these chamfered edges. The bottom here just features the Type-C port for charging and then a manual on and off switch to turn on the Bluetooth mode as well as the lights. And you do also get 2 additional feet to prop it up at an elevated angle when you're typing. As far as the backlights are concerned, they do shine through the keycaps, which is good if you're typing in the dark. It actually still looks quite consistent and even and has a slowly pulsating kind of color theme going on to it. Now there are supposedly macros and drivers that you can download from LIGHTSALT's website, which, speaking of, will look something like this. Once you have it connected to your computer, you'll be able to again change the color and shade of each individual key. Furthermore, every individual key can have a transition or animation being applied. For example, if you want it to be fading, a consistent color always being on, or strobing, even the white balance or shade of white color can be further adjusted. Colder versus warmer, as well as changing it into energy saving mode that will automatically decrease the brightness of the keyboard. So there's a lot of customization that you're able to do. It's just you don't get a lot of those defaults built in out of the box. You have to kind of play around the software to activate these functions. What is a little bit strange though is out of the box there are some preset kind of colors. If you're hitting on control, for example, it shifts some of those commonly used letters into more of this candy shade. Similarly, function will light up the arrow keys, delete there, as well as the F1 to F3. In addition, hitting on Alt will turn the F4 key as well as the Tab key a certain color, as you can tell there. So these are some shortcuts right now that are default out of the box, hopefully can be more easily customized in the international version of their software, but just something to quickly keep in mind. But it does make kind of an interesting kind of color effect as you are looking at it. Everything else, though, is mostly white, at least here on default. As far as the actual typing experience is concerned, it is a fairly satisfying keyboard, I have to say, for kind of quiet switches. So again, the overall sensation, I do think, actually feels quite good. If you don't want something super clacky as is, it feels like all the keys are fairly smooth, but again, still very satisfying to type on. The keycaps here having a nice amount of traction with that ever so slight soft touch finish to them, a slight concave as well. That just feels pretty ergonomic, to be honest, as you're typing. Good for emails and longer documents. So overall, I do like the kind of way they feel as you're typing on it. Adding in some additional shortcuts for cycling through even more animations. Things like rippling patterns, as well as changing the brightness, in addition to if there's a sound reactive mode from a microphone. Yes, those at the end of the day are a little bit more kind of nice novelty functions instead of being super practical, but since this thing does have RGB lights, it might as well have those features which are found on more conventional mechanical keyboards. But right now, again, tapping on function as well as kind of alt, it doesn't seem to be quite triggering that. So it seems to be just the default that you see here, in addition to the macros that you can assign in their software for Mac and PC. Now, I also kind of like how the arrow keys, as well as the delete and print keys, are spaced fairly apart from the main center island of this keyboard, so it makes it a little bit harder to hit by accident. Everything feels full size, and the layout is fairly comfortable. As far as pairing is concerned, though, you do have up to 3 devices that you can connect to at once. So you have Bluetooth profile 1, 2, and 3. So for example, you can pair it to your smartphone, a tablet, and a computer, and switch between those devices as you're typing. So that's just a quick look at the LIGHTSALT Gen, aka a part of the JSL ecosystem, and again, pretty clever in having the wireless charging capability with the mat, as well as the mouse support. It's kind of an all-in-one solution for charging, while keeping the desk looking quite tidy. As far as the keyboard's hardware is concerned, it is very well built. The magnets do feel tight, it's comfortable to type on, surprisingly hefty, and looks very distinctive with all the colors that you can set it to, and a very nice overall typing experience. But again, some of the areas they could work on could be possibly improving some of the kind of app support, even though the hardware and manufacturing does seem to be mostly on point. And I do really like, again, the distinctive design they've gone with. Sets it apart from the crowd for sure. Now, also as a final peek, this is what those kind of silent linear switches are like, so they are truly transparent. The light is completely underneath here, so it will shine through and again cast a pretty even glow. You can check out more details if interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews, just a very quick look at the keyboard part of this JSL set.